We've got Mr. Bakare here from Afrinvest, and yes, let's just go straight to the point. Tell us exactly how we contracted from 3% to 1.1% as we have in the GDP numbers that came in a few days ago.
Okay, as we are aware, agric GDP growth slowed to 1.1% from about, say, 3% we had in Q1 2018. And that was a very, very disappointing performance and below expectations. But it is not, completely out of the picture of what we've been seeing recently, say, in fruit planting regions in the Middle Belt and as well as in northern Nigeria. So what we had was really the slowdown in agric really reflected what happened in crop production. So in crop production is about over 85% of the agric sector, and we saw a sharp moderation there from about 3% as well to around 1.3%. Similarly, in livestock production, we saw a contraction. So livestock production has been contracting for a while now. It contracted in Q1, in Q2, and as well in Q2. So basically, we think all these mirror what we've been seeing and what we've been, talking about. Say the events we've been seeing in North Central Nigeria, where we've seen continuous conflict between farmers and herdsmen. So we think these are the factors that really affected agriculture in Q2.
So will it be right to say that we actually saw more of these headsmen and farmers clashes this year than we saw in 2017? Because if you look at the numbers again, last year, Q2 2017 data showed that we grew by 3.01%.
Yeah, of course, we think the events, the spate of those conflicts have continued to intensify. And as well, global monitoring agencies tracking insecurity in North Central, they've always recorded, several conflicts, several, attacks in those regions, and they've reported it consistently. So, furthermore, we also have events happening apart from, the farmer-herdsman clash, you have other events happening in food planting regions in northern Nigeria. There's a continuous displacement of farmers you have in those regions. So some of the monitoring agencies in the Northeast, for instance, continuously record, increases in, say, internally displaced persons moving into camps. So, and in the northern Nigeria, we have about 1.8 million currently displaced people, and we know the main occupation in the north is agric. So we believe these are the factors that have affected agric output.
It is an agrarian area, actually. But we also know that this administration has really enjoyed a lot of support in terms of support for agric sector now from multilateral agencies, AFDB, the World Bank. The government itself within has been really committed to the resuscitation of agriculture by way of intervention.
Yeah.
How much of this would you say really impacted that space, this period of Q2 2018?
Okay, so it is very hard to put a number to it, but we know, like you said, there has been continuous intervention in the sector to support agric through credit facilities as well as input supply, say fertilizers and co.
Yeah.
So it is hard to really separate the events, what we've been seeing in agric from these interventions. So, for instance, we can reasonably state that the slowdown we saw was affected by lack of those funding. So we believe, those fundings have continued to support agric output. In the case that if government had not channeled enough funding into the sector, probably the output growth we saw might have been worse than that. So in our opinion, we think government support has been helpful to the sector. However, there are other factors beyond provision of credit facilities.
Let's look at those factors now.
Okay, the major factor confronting farmers now is majorly insecurity. So, and what we've seen is, so we have herdsmen coming coming closer to the south for their livestock. So, and we saw that in the process of doing that, there has been conflict between, the herdsmen and the farmers. So this has resulted into, killings, displacement of farmers, killing of livestock, a decline in, say, agric output, destruction of farmlands and all. So these are really, and so far government has not, put together a coherent strategy to actually, ease the conflict in these regions. So it is still elevated now, and we think beyond, supporting the sector with funding, these are areas government has to look into in the short term to sustain agric output.
Do you think there's more that the federal government can actually do? Because the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development is on one hand, and we know the CBN is on the other hand, doing a whole lot in terms of its program via NISRA, the Anchor Borrower Scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. We think government should do better. While the funding support is good, there are also other factors that will come into play, other long-term factors. As we are aware, there's climate change, so there's ongoing, drought is intensifying. There is more, incidence of, say, diseases that will affect agri output, and which our farmers are not equipped to deal with. So, all this require government, intervention to sustain the sector. Not to mention the very low labor productivity in the agri sector. So this is one of the areas we believe government could look into as well. So persistently low productivity that has been characterizing the agri sector has not been dealt with. And in most cases, it is not really a matter of funding. It's about the strategies you put in place, the kind of, the right crops to produce in certain areas, the right environments, the availability of, say, irrigation facilities to improve yields on farmlands. So those are the things I think the governments can begin to do as well. We should not forget that employment in agriculture would continue to moderate because a lot of youths are migrating from, traditional agriculture into modern, the modern economy.
Are we really seeing that in this climate? Mechanized farming is not what I have really seen. So
yeah. Mechanized farming is what we should be looking into, because in the end, when you have we have millions of farmers, right? And as the economy continues to advance, and as well as developments in the general economy, youths are more motivated to move into other sectors. Meaning, the current labor force you have in agri, they will be aging, so their labor productivity will continue to remain very low. So what government should do is we need big farms, we need large scale farms, we need a mechanization of farming to be able to increase output and drive growth in the sector. So these are all areas the government has to look into to sustain long-term growth in agriculture.
One of the major challenges we've read about in the dailies now, and I don't know if we should say that is a systemic problem or it is emanating from the farmer side of things, is the debt recovery from these farmers. Recently, the Bank of Industry talked about the need to go after some farmers to recover some of those credit facilities that have been given to them, some of them who are yet to pay back. What do you make of this?
Okay. It's the scheme. Usually what government does is, we all know government supports the sector because credit to agri sector in banking, in commercial banking is very, very weak. So it's a way of putting money into the sector to drive growth. But what we are concerned about is really about the implementation of such, the disbursement of such funds. So what government is trying to do is they've been trying to sidestep the private sector, which are the banks. And we feel this is not enough because usually banks, before they lend, they are aware of the credit risk of the sectors they are lending money into, and agri is characterized by high risk in Nigeria. Absolutely. Farmers do not have access to, say, insurance, for instance, and its collateral is weak. There's no secure land tenure. So these are all factors affecting lending to the sector, which government has not resolved, and which they think by putting more money into the sector they can sidestep. But we really believe it's about, if you want to channel funds into agri sector, let it go through the banks, who have very high quality credit risk management schemes. So, but you can profile the farmers and look at ways in which to adjust for risk and make sure that what farmers repay the loans they get. But with the current approach of the federal government through, say, the Ministry of Agriculture and CBN, what we're seeing is direct disbursements into cooperatives and all those things. I mean, in some of the anchor borrowers programs. So this is what we think has been, affecting the efficiency of the, of government intervention funds. Government intervention funds should go through the private sector, and the private sector can more, adequately cover risk in the sector and, choose or select farmers they can give loans to so as to, get repayments.
So, 2018 budget, 3.2% of the 9.1 trillion naira is actually to be committed to agriculture. I think that's about 25 or 26 billion naira in some, if we do the mathematics here. But how much should we expect now going forward from this agri space?
I mean, agri funding in Nigeria, like in other sectors, is still very weak. And that is because
25 billion naira is not enough.
It's not enough to drive the improvements you want to see there. The size of the sector is about 25% of the economy of, a 113 trillion economy, and you're supporting the sector by 25 billion. That is very, very marginal. So, and we believe this is, as a result of, ongoing challenges as well with government, where revenue collection has been very, very weak, and that affects, spending in other sectors. So we really believe for sustained spending or sustained investment in agriculture, the government should try to look into the private sector. So it's developing a strategy that will bring more people, more investments, drive foreign investments, even local investment in agri. So that is really what government needs to do. Present funding is inadequate, and I mean, looking forward, it's persistently going to be like this. So it's looking at the investment, looking to drive, collaboration with the private sector to increase investment in the space that we really believe is a sustainable option.
So you've mentioned the need for the private sector to have the enabling environment also key into this. Before government comes after us now to say that it's not about government alone, what more can the private sector on its own part do? I know a bank like FCMB is also committing more funds to the agri space, especially through the mechanized farming system, the equipment side of things, in collaboration with Babagona in the north. But what more can these banks do in terms of lending now?
Well, we believe, like you mentioned, some banks have already realized that, especially in the current low interest environment, to drive growth, they need to drive loan expansion. They need to lend more to the real sector. And in some banks, we've seen increased strategy to drive growth into manufacturing and
on the final note, because we need to wrap up now, do you think we should be bullish on Q3, Q4, basically H2 2018?
H2 2018. We believe the harvest season should support a modest rebound in agri outputs, but oil production should also pick up and support growth in oil production. So overall, we are bullish that the performance in H2 should be better than what we had in H1.
Adedayo Bakare, thank you so much for making it down to Business Morning. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Back to you now, Chimaze.
Thank you very much, Tempo. Well, let's see what happens aside from the lending issue you and Bakare talked about. Let's just hope that the second quarter GDP numbers will just be an eye-opener for the government to begin to do the right thing, particularly in the issue of insecurity. Well, we'll take another break. When we get back, we will gather viewpoints from market traders on Theresa May's visit. To stay with us.